welcome to Greenheart Connects. I'm Marcel and I'll be your host. Thank you for watching today. Greenheart Connects is a monthly online series where we gather to exchange ideas to care for the earth and for each other. Through facilitated discussions and curated presentations, people from around the world can share inspiring stories, tips, suggestions, and resources on how to improve local communities and the world. Greenheart Connects is brought to you by Greenheart International, a not-for-profit organization facilitating global understanding through cultural exchange programs for Americans and young people from all over the world. We believe that exchange has the power to broaden perspectives and to change lives. Thank you for being here. Greenheart Connects explores 4 key themes throughout the year: environmentalism, volunteerism, fair trade, and personal growth. Today, we are joined by the folks from the Yellow Tulip Project. This organization creates a space for young people to talk about mental health. Every autumn in schools and neighborhoods around the country, the Yellow Tulip Project plants hope gardens of yellow tulips. These symbols of hope inspire productive conversations to combat the rising rates of depression and suicide among teens. So today we will hear about how the Yellow Tulip Project came to be and to talk to them about the important work that they do in schools and in gardens around the country. So after the presentation, we will meet back here for a live Q&A. Are you ready? Let's go.
Hi, I'm Suzanne Fox, Executive Director of the Yellow Tulip Project.
Hi, I'm Madeline Mano, the co-director of events at the Yellow Tulip Project.
And we're so happy to share information about the Yellow Tulip Project, what we do, who we are, and how we need to come together to smash the stigma around mental illness. We just want to thank you for taking the time to shine a light on mental health. I spent about 35 years in international education, and now I'm in the space of youth momentum and mental health. Mental health and mental illness is not an American issue. It's a global health issue that touches 1 in 5 people worldwide. So I want to start with a little backstory. This is my daughter, Julia. The next thing we're going to do is show her TED Talk that she gave when she was 16 years old. And I just want to give a little warning that her TED Talk is quite raw and emotional. And she talks about suicide, loss, and self-harm. Her story captures why we do what we do, and here is Julia's TED Talk.
I want to kill myself. Kill me now. I literally want to die. I hear these words around me each and every day by friends, family, and classmates. I hear these words with a different ear than many other teens hear these words. I hear these words knowing the immense impact suicide has on one's life. I'm 16, and last year I lost my 2 closest friends to suicide. Along with this, I've struggled immensely with my own suicidal thoughts and my own levels of deep, dark depression. Each time these words are thrown around, I'm brought back to that life-shattering car ride when my mom told me Peyton killed herself. Or the time I sat on the floor screaming, why me? Why did I have to lose another friend after I heard the news about Beata's death? These words are thrown around casually, not knowing the horrors they may cause for individuals, including myself. When you think of depression, what do you see? Is it a stick-thin girl, a dressed in black cutter? These individuals could easily be depressed, but the bubbly, smiling person you see before you today is also very depressed. I vividly remember driving a car with my mom and her commenting on how that girl must be so depressed, purely because of her outfit choices and the way she carried herself. But so am I said astonished, so am I. And yet no one would think of the person that I am to be someone that's dealing with depression. Peyton killed herself October 31st of last year. She was an amazing cross-country runner, an avid Model UN competitor, a great mentor for younger kids, and the best friend I could ever ask for. She had a radiating smile that always managed to brighten the mood. This helped save me. Nobody thought of Peyton to be depressed, let alone suicidal. When people thought of Peyton, they thought of her incredible positivity, her amazing enthusiasm, and her unwavering love and support. Nobody thought of someone that was kept up brutally with insomnia or someone that could take their own life. Beata had similar talents of being able to brighten the mood. Her emanating positivity made everyone fall in love with her immediately. This is what I experienced. She wasn't someone to walk around dark, sullen, and gloomy. She was someone to find something beautiful in each and every day. My friends do not fit into societal standards of depression. Everyone has their own personal story with their own levels of depth. I suffer from depression. I suffer from depression. Say it out loud, address it, smash the stigma because it's a real issue that's not going anywhere. This is what Peyton made me do. She made me address the fact that I was mentally ill and needed help urgently. On a spring Sunday night, I brutally cut myself with a buy local pin, leaving ragged red markings on my left forearm. My parents saw these markings and asked what they were. A little mishap in a thorn bush, I responded. After this, the conversation ended. Because obviously their sweet Julia was rummaging around on a thorn bush on a Sunday night, right? No, they're oblivious to the obvious truth, that their sweet Julia was very depressed and purposely harming herself. On Monday, Peyton saw these markings and asked what they were. A little mishap in a thorn bush, I responded. This lie didn't go too well with her, though. She knew then that I was in a very bad mental place. She completely put me under her wing and gave me unfaltering love and support. On Tuesday, I had a doctor's appointment to get a TB shot. TB shots are injected directly into your left forearm, and let me remind you, this is exactly where those red markings were still very apparent. When I walked into the hospital, I was nervous of what the nurse would say. About what they would say about my markings on my arms, about what they would say about my health, and what they would say to my parents. The nurse entered, rolled up my sleeve, injected the needle, said goodbye, and left, with no mention of the fact that a girl sitting before her so obviously was purposely harming herself. Although I was nervous of what the nurse would say about the markings on my arms, part of me needed her to say something because it was to the point where I needed more intervention. The fact that there was no mention of the markings on my arms made me crawl even deeper into myself and become even more depressed. This sent Peyton into a rage, though. She was so mad that they would be so idiotic and say nothing about the markings on my arm. Peyton was my complete support mechanism. She gave me unfaltering love and support. This is a lot of what our friendship was based off of. Peyton made me speak about my depression. Mental illness is a silent epidemic. Although 1 in 5 teens suffer from some sort of mental illness, it is completely pushed under the rug and we do not address it. We talk about broken bones and we talk about headaches, but the mere thought of talking about mental illness makes people run far and fast. Last spring, I wanted to kill myself, but I was done being silent. I told my parents and they brought me to the hospital. They saved me. I saved myself purely because I could speak about my depression. I was able to climb out of that hole and find the beauty that's still out there in this crazy world purely because I could speak about my depression. This is a message I want to spread far and wide. Because of this, I created a project I call the Yellow Tulip Project, which is meant to smash the stigma associated with mental illness and try to bring hope and light into people's lives. It is meant to remind people that even in the hardest and darkest of times, hope still really is out there. Peyton's favorite color was yellow, and Beata's favorite flower was a tulip, so for me, it is a perfect combination of my friends' lives. Part of the project is planting Hope Gardens, which is a community gathering while continuing to smash the stigma with mental illness while planting yellow tulip bulbs into the cold ground. In the fall, we planted Hope Gardens at hospitals, schools, and communities all over New England. Beata and Peyton put so much of their love and energy into making people feel supported and cherished. I believe that through this project, their legacy can continue on. I'm a 16-year-old girl who lost my 2 closest friends to suicide. I'm a 16-year-old girl who's a passionate musician, artist, worker, and scientist. I'm depressed, but today I'm healthy. I want to kill myself. Kill me now. I literally want to die. Please just think before you speak. Thank you.
That talk, I've seen it hundreds and hundreds of times, but it's still, it just amazes me how one voice can start this ripple effect of change. That was just about 6 years ago. And where we are now is so humbling and so inspiring because of young people who care to make a difference. So now I'm turning it over to one of these amazing young people who's part of our leadership team. And Madeline, take it away.
Hi everyone. I want to share a little more about our momentum and who we are. So I'm going to play another video.
The Yellow Tulip Project is a youth organization focused on normalizing conversations around mental health.
The stigma around mental illness deprives people of what they actually need help with if they do have mental illness. And the problem with that is that prolongs their treatment and often causes more harm in the long term.
Our mission is to cultivate conversation and community activity in order to smash the stigma surrounding mental illness and to make people feel that they are okay and that hope is out there.
The Yellow Tulip Project all began with the passion from Julia Hansen, our founder. After losing 2 of her best friends to suicide, after dealing with mental health herself and struggling with depression, she knew she had to do something. So she founded the Yellow Tulip Project in this act of resilience and almost defiance. In a world where we don't talk about mental health, she decided to talk about it.
She's the epitome of what YTP represents. It's caring about others, activism, not being afraid to stand up for what you believe, and demonstrating that it's okay to smash the stigma, it's okay to reach out to friends and family if you need help.
We are mainly a youth-based organization. However, we are welcoming anyone and everyone who is willing to focus on smashing the stigma surrounding mental illness.
The main thing that the Yellow Tulip Project does is, it's in the name, plant tulips.
Our 2 signature events are our fall bulb planting ceremony and our spring Hope Day celebration.
These bulb plantings also take place across the country. Members of our movement have also planted yellow tulips at their schools and colleges.
And other major events that we do as the Yellow Tulip Project is facilitating dialogues and conversations. Just bringing those spaces to men and women and all in between who need that space to talk about their story and share their story. So our biggest things are A, planting tulip gardens and spreading hope and watching it grow, and B, setting up those opportunities for everyone to share their story on mental health. One of the most important things of YTP is our photo exhibit.
We created the I Am photo exhibit to just show that everyday people are struggling, everyday people have mental illnesses, everyday people are affected by the stigma surrounding mental illness.
You have a person who you think looks fine when you look at them, look happy, whatnot, and their line statement could be I'm suffering with a mental illness, let's say depression. And the point of that is just by looking at somebody, you can't tell what they're going through.
So it was this beautiful amalgamation of how people are built, simply, that every single person has so much going on in their head that's unbeknownst to the eye. You can't tell what my favorite band is, you can't tell what my favorite food is, and you can't tell whether or not I struggle with mental illness or not.
I do what I do just because personally I've gone through my fair share of mental illness in my own journey. For me, I wish I had YTP in my corner when I needed the most, so being able to make sure that other people have YTP and its offerings and the resources and the support when they need it, I think if I can help one person, I think that's more than I can ever do. So I'm just happy to make sure that I can help other people.
Hi, I'm Andrea Maggs. I'm from Orland, Maine.
Hi everyone, my name is Stephanie Stilkey. I do reside in Lafayette, Louisiana.
Hi, my name is Madeline and I'm from Massachusetts.
Hi, I'm Jaden from Missouri.
Hi, my name is Kelsey Passetti. I'm from Wisconsin and we are going to smash the stigma.
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 When we say the Yellow Tulip Project is youth-based, we truly mean that it is youth-based. We heavily rely on students, both ranging from elementary all the way to high school and college. but it's definitely not limited just to youth. One of the biggest ways we do this is through our ambassador network. So we have over 400 ambassadors, and our ambassadors come together to help develop programs for the Yellow Tulip Project within their schools, really spreading our message. We primarily start with elementary school, talking about mental health in a way that's a little easier for younger ages to understand. And we do this through planting hope gardens and really just starting the conversation early so that we smash the stigma. We also work with middle schools. Similarly, we continue to plant hope gardens, and we also have bulletin boards encouraging students to talk about that elephant in the room, mental illness. And we also with this have a daily practice. This is a new thing that we just developed, and the whole purpose of this daily practice is to encourage students to express themselves through art and journaling so that they have an outlet for them to express their mental health and just make sure that they're being kind to their mind. And lastly, we have high school programs. This is where a majority of our ambassadors come from. This is where I first discovered the Yellow Tulip Project. And a lot of what we do is just really bringing the Yellow Tulip Project's events to our own school. So we plant hope gardens. We have community conversations involving both students and teachers to really make sure that people know the extent to which mental health affects people. And one of the really big things we talk about is language, specifically language surrounding mental health. So this means not throwing around terms like depression or anxiety when talking in casual conversations. One of our latest and newest programs that I am so in love with is Move It for Mental Health. We recently just had our Move It for Mental Health event in May, which is Mental Health Awareness Month. So for Move It for Mental Health, our goal in it is really to show the link between mental health and physical health, because doing certain physical activities betters your mental health, and also mental health is just as important as physical health. So we encourage our ambassadors, different communities, schools, businesses to move it with us, whether that be walking, knitting, painting, doing pottery, running, whatever they thought was moving it for them. Mental health is such a global issue, especially now in the age of a pandemic. We just further accomplish our mission through our YTP ambassadors, through schools and community partners, and really just hoping to make connections and show people again that they're not alone, and that by working together and addressing that kind of looming presence or thing that people are scared to talk about, mental health. Now that you've heard all about who we are, there are so many ways you can get involved. We have our Instagram, our Facebook, our TikTok. We also have a Snapchat. We also have our website, yellowtulipproject.org. These are really easy ways to just check out what we're doing, know about certain events that might be in your area. And there are also, you can also, of course, bring the Yellow Tulip Project to your school or community. There's a section that's specifically for students where you can learn how you can become an ambassador and how you can develop Yellow Tulip Project programs at your school. Thank you so much for your time, and together we can smash the stigma. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Joining us live today from Portland, Maine is Suzanne Fox, the co-founder and executive director of the Yellow Tulip Project. Welcome.
Hi, thank you so much. Happy to be here.
And welcome to everyone who's joining us today. If you haven't already, please say hi in the comment box below. If you could write your name, where you're joining us from, and if you have any thoughts or any burning questions that you have for Suzanne, definitely enter them there. I will be going through them during the Q&A segment today, so we'll have a dialogue going. So I will get us started. So then during the Olympics, we witnessed Simone Biles, the gymnast, struggle, as well as prior to that, we witnessed Naomi Osaka, who's a tennis player, and of course, Michael Phelps, the swimmer, going through some hard times too. And so this seemed to shine a light on mental health, on saying no, on focusing on self-care. How has this impacted youth and the stigma of mental health care?
Sure. Well, the stigma is the number one thing that keeps people from getting the help that they need. So our tagline is smash the stigma, and anywhere, anyhow, we can normalize these conversations. They're hard to have, but they're so important to have. So when we see people who are famous celebrities or gymnasts, like Simone Biles, Naomi Osaka, Bruce Springsteen, Michael Phelps, Lady Gaga, Billie Eilish, when we see more people that we know that are also addressing their mental health, it helps normalize those conversations. So it shouldn't be brave of Simone Biles to talk about her mental health, but we're not at a point yet that people are talking about it as easily as they talk about their physical health. So I thought it was really awesome and brave and important, and hopefully made more young people feel less alone, that I can talk about it too.
Absolutely. And I was just struck by what Julia said in the TED Talk, how so we sometimes focus on the wounds that are physical, that you could see outside, but not a lot of people understand about what's going on inside just because you don't see it. So in your presentation, simply talking about depression is recommended. And sometimes it's hard for people to know what to do, what to say, or to help. So do you give guidance to people about what to say when they hear that someone is depressed, or when their actions imply that something deeper is going on? So in other words, what can or should a listener do besides listening?
Sure. And first I have to back up, and I'm not a mental health professional, so I'm not giving any professional advice. But what we can do is, I'm here for you, listening with intention. Are you okay? Are you really okay? And I can't help you, but I can help you get the help that you need. And let me help you, refer you to helplines, guidance counselor, trusted adult, trusted friend. This isn't something that anyone should carry alone. And so I think for my daughter, Julia, I think talking about mental illness is like talking about that big elephant in the room, that everyone sees it, everyone knows it's there, but we don't want to talk about it because it's awkward. And I think it's better to be awkward, trip and fall, and maybe say something a little awkward than not say something at all. So when you see somebody that just seems off or not right, just say, you seem a little off. Do you want to talk about it? And actually listen to the answer. Because I think a lot of people don't take that time. Are you okay? Yeah, I'm okay. No, are you really okay? That's kind of the important pause, to actually listen a little with more intention.
Absolutely. And just not brush it off, or really taking in the cues a little bit more. How is your daughter, Julia? And how are you? I mean, this is obviously very hard on the family. And, I'm glad that we're talking about it, because I think, if anything, this is really highlighting the importance of the topic.
Exactly. So I just need to back up and thank you, and thank you, Greenheart, for giving me and giving the Yellow Tulip Project this space to have these conversations, because they're not light and easy, but they're so important, particularly after the COVID crisis, which we're not out of yet, but how many people have been alone on Zoom, away from their peers, away from any structure. So, well, this is 6 years ago. Halloween is next Sunday night. And it was Halloween 6 years ago that my daughter's friend took her life. And we were in dark trenches 6 years ago. And it was really hard to see hope. but we did. And now that was when Julia was a sophomore in high school, and now she's a senior in college. So she is amazing. She has now in place what she didn't have at that time. She has a total toolkit on what to do and how to manage her mental health. She has therapy, she has nature walks, she has plants, she has medication, she has everything that she didn't have in place at that time. So she's good, I'm good, and I'm just so inspired by young people who are so brave, so honest, and so on fire to make change and bring this conversation out into the open so it's easy and normal and completely. I look forward to the next few years. That's what that's where we're going. I really hope that's the case.
Well, you definitely started the conversation, and with the good work that you're doing with the Yellow Tulip Project, I was inspired just hearing the volunteers or the ambassadors just talking about what we need to do. I think the future is bright with the young people talking about it and just addressing it head on. I'm looking at the chat that we have right here. There's a couple of people already saying hi. Irene from Chicago saying, I'm so happy to hear this conversation happening. Viola from Poland, hello and greetings. Nancy from Richmond, Virginia. Ellie, Laura from Madrid, Spain. So there's a lot of people who are tuning in and really understand that this is an important topic for us to discuss.
That's true. I mean, October 10th was Global Mental Health Awareness Day, and that's 1 in 5 people worldwide. This is not an American issue. This is a global health issue, and I love that Greenheart is taking this on. I know Greenheart's connection with the world and with volunteerism. It's such a beautiful intersection between what you're doing and what we're doing, and I'm young at heart, but I'm not a youth, and I am amazed by the young people that are, how can I get involved? How can I get involved? Bring it to my community. And we started when my daughter Julia was a sophomore in high school. So our focus at that time was high school students, because that's where she was. And now what I'm really, really inspired about is that we have more and more college students, because students who got involved when they were in high school bring it to college, which is really exciting. But what's even more exciting to me is we're working with more and more younger kids, middle schools and elementary schools. And when you're talking about elementary schools, we're not talking necessarily about suicide, loss, and self-harm. Those are heavier topics for younger students, but we are talking about mental health and self-care and finding strategies for taking care of yourself, because there's so much stress and pressure on everybody right now. So I love that younger kids are planting gardens and talking about their mental health.
What are you seeing right now in the younger generation? You're talking about the middle schoolers. That's pretty young. And like you mentioned, while they may not be talking about suicide, but this is a way for them to be more aware of how they're doing mentally. Can you maybe share a few examples of some of the involvement and or what you're seeing?
Sure. Well, sadly, there's reports, there was a big article in our main newspaper about the rise in youth suicide rates from 7 to 10-year-olds. So this is not, I wish this was not an issue for any age group, but the fact that it's getting younger and younger, nobody wants to talk about it, but we need to. We need to have these conversations. I was blown away by a group of middle school students in a middle school in Maine, Shakopee Valley Middle School. They went to their principal and their school board. These are 6th and 7th graders. We want to bring the Yellow Tulip Project to our school. And they were such pioneers. They were the first middle school that did that. And they did everything we do. They planted hope gardens. They talked about stigma. They put boards in their school, what makes you hopeful. They had our music playlist. They did Wellness Wednesdays. They did everything. And that's what we're trying to copy and paste and have every middle school do, because we barely talk about mental health and mental illness in high school, maybe one day in a high school health curriculum. It's not talked about at all in middle school, barely at all. So we want to get those conversations started early.
Absolutely, and I'm glad to hear that. While the statistics are a little bit depressing, it's not something that you want to hear, and your heart breaks because these are the future leaders of the world. We want them to thrive and succeed. And so there's a question here from one of the audience members. Laura asked, if someone thinks that they have a friend who is in need of support from a mental health professional, what is the best way to approach this with them in order to be respectful of the delicate situation that they may find themselves in?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's such a good question. And you first start with a person who is seemingly needs the help and saying, I see that you're not yourself. I'm concerned or worried about you. I'd like to, I want you to talk to somebody. And oftentimes it was the case for sure with my daughter, where other people would say, promise you won't say anything. And then they carry this around, and you have to really think, if you are really worried about your friend's health and their safety, it's more important to talk to a trusted adult than maybe break the trust of your friend, but your friend will get help and will be safer. So it's delicate for sure. There's a website called Seize the Awkward, which is it's just great. It's how to have those awkward conversations all around mental health and suicide. And I can put that in the chat, but there's a lot of great resources on how to have these awkward conversations.
Right. And I was reviewing your website the other day, and I saw that you came out with the 48 tips. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Oh, sure. I'm so proud of our youth leadership team. This was in July, and schools are reopening, and people are saying, we're going back to normal. And we're like, well, there's nothing normal about what's happened. We've all been on Zoom, away from classrooms, away from peers, and it's going to be hard for people who don't have mental health issues, but people who do, who have been alone and are having anxiety or depression or whatever they're experiencing. So this came together really fast, and that says a lot about the energy of the Yellow Tulip Project, because we don't want to just talk. Talking doesn't, we need to get things happening now, not yesterday. So the kids came up with advice. Each youth on our leadership team came up with one piece of advice and 4 self-care tips, and they are so awesome. And we put them together in a cute book. I think you've shared that with everybody or has access. It's definitely on our website. But they are great. They are great. And when my daughter 2 weeks ago started having a total surge of her depression and a total anxiety attack, I said, Julia, read your page. Read the page. And her page is, make sure that you take a deep breath, make sure that you have access to nature, you walk in nature, and I'm like, she wasn't doing any of those things. And she was feeling a swell of her mental illness coming back. And then she said, oh yeah, I need to have a cup of tea, listen to some good music, go for a walk, and it does help. So they're great. I'm really proud of them. And I love that they're on our website for anybody to download and use.
And congratulations on creating this, because this is such a helpful resource, and it's slightly different because it is coming from the perspective of teens. I like how it's organized. There's Emma, and then she has advice 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Very simple and straight to the point, and really tackling it directly.
Exactly. Thank you
so
much.
Yeah, so this website, or this resource, is also available if you access the Greenheart Connects website. Under resources, you will find this along with other helpful resources on this topic. So thank you so much for sharing that with us, Suzanne. I also wanted to talk about, just focusing more on the teens. What are some of the things that they can do, teens or anyone for that matter, if they're feeling anxious or depressed? I hear about the nature walks, just taking a quiet time, drink tea. Any other tips that you can share?
Well, I definitely check out all the tips in the care kit because they're a great range of. I think it depends on the person. You know, we did last May during the heart, like the major crisis time of COVID. We did this Got Hope campaign, and what makes you hopeful and what do you do? And a lot of young people were sending in videos what they do, and a lot of them were, I take walks, I go running, I do this, I do that. And one girl said, I just stay in bed and watch Frozen on my laptop. And so everybody's way of how they heal, and what sometimes there's like, get up and do something, and when you're having a hard time with your depression, that's the hardest thing to do. So sometimes just acknowledging that I need to watch Frozen or the Office reruns on Netflix. Just being kind to yourself, I think, is the most important thing.
That's a good advice. What do you tell parents or teachers when they sense depression or anxiety in their children or their students?
Yep. Well, again, if you saw the TED talk that my daughter gave, I was outed as a parent who had my head in the sand and missed every sign, didn't know. So I love teaching adult ed classes to parents because, like I said, I'm not a mental health professional, but at this point I've taken every class, training, workshop, you know, I'm very deep in this space right now. But I think there are so many resources. Parents, if you're worried, there's helplines that a parent can call. There's, you know, I've talked to therapists about, I'm worried about my daughter. I think just reaching out and getting help, and also educating yourself, taking whatever adult ed class. NAMI has National Alliance on Mental Illness, American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. We teach adult ed class. Just read and listen and watch and educate yourself. Coming from a parent, coming from someone who didn't know a damn thing. I didn't know anything, you know.
Well, this is a good conversation to have, because I'm sure there are other parents out there who may be going through the same thing, or they may not realize the signs. And so if there's anything coming out of this episode, we're hoping that this will help others to at least recognize the signs and start the conversation, the awkward conversations and questions, but at least to get it out there. So Susan, what if you're the one who's depressed or down? How do you ask someone to listen? I remember Julia in the TED Talk mentioned about, you know, I think the parents, you notice the marks on her arms, and then someone else did, I think Peyton, and then Peyton asked more questions. But how do you reach out and get someone to listen to you? How do you initiate that conversation so that, you know, your load can be lightened up a little bit?
Yeah, that is such a good question. What we're trying so earnestly to do is to lift the stigma so that you can talk about it. And I think, like I said in the beginning, it's the stigma that keeps people from getting help. It's just me. No one else understands. I'm the one walking around depressed or anxious. But when we have our youth on our Instagram, on our social media, they share like, I'm depressed, I'm having a hard time with my anxiety. Then the middle school kid is like, oh my God, look at all these other people are sharing their stories. So I think recognizing that you're not alone is just a huge first step, and that this is not something you should carry by yourself. And that, like when you asked me first about Simone Biles, like sometimes I don't get like Simone Biles and Lady Gaga and these famous people, but still so not talked about in middle school. So how can we trickle it down to middle school? And that's why I'm hoping that the more younger people see people that look like them, not like famous Simone Biles or famous Michael Phelps or Bruce Springsteen. But when my daughter, Julia, she gave her TED talk, but then she gave a TEDx youth talk, the same talk, but at a school in Maine, the entire auditorium, the entire high school. And when she finished giving that talk, and the middle school 8th graders were also watching, you could not hear a pin drop. And it was total silence, and then roaring standing ovations, because no one had ever seen a 15-year-old who could be them standing on a stage in a high school and saying, I suffer from depression. So that was so impactful. After that talk, the whole high school, there's like 40 kids who became ambassadors to bring the Yellow Tulip Project, get involved. So I think that's a huge part of normalizing the conversation, is to have the conversations.
So it's just so grateful that this is it's out in the open. And I think the other part of it is when the terms are being thrown around in casual conversations, and this is also what Julia was saying, it can be tough on people who are going through that. So, and this is part of education for all of us who may not have had direct experience with this. When we hear those words being just used out of context, how do you recommend responding?
Yeah, I think there's so much going on in our culture right now about cultural appropriation, about pronouns, about proper language across the board. So we never thought that commit suicide, we'd say so-and-so committed suicide. That's not okay to say. You say died by suicide or took their life. So it's just educating about language. So when people say, my daughter, when she was in high school, she created a board at her school, what to say, what not to say. And when people say, oh, okay, kill me, you have to say, you know what, you got to think about the language. Just like you'd say if someone says something offensive, if they're talking about race issues or gender issues, you'd say, you know what, you don't say commit, you say died by suicide. You don't say, oh, I'm so depressed. Well, you don't have clinical depression. So if someone says, oh, that's so depressing, like just reminding people gently to be thoughtful about their language.
Thank you for that reminder. I'm sure many of us have committed that, myself included. So it's good to get the reminder and to learn about this, because at the end of the day, we all want to be aware of what others are going through, that even though people are smiling, we don't know what's going on inside. I think I was just struck when Julia said, who would have thought that Julia, this happy Julia, is going through all, having suicide thoughts in her head.
In fact, Marcel, we have a beautiful photo exhibit. It's a little bit on our website. It's called I Am More Facing Stigma, and it's an exhibit that travels around the country. We have a digital version for people to use in book clubs and classrooms. But the whole premise for the exhibit came from my mom, who I love my mom. I'm close with my mom, but she's, well, Julia doesn't look depressed. So that was like, well, what does depression look like? You can't see depression. You can see if someone has a cast, or someone's on crutches, or someone has the Band-Aid.
Right.
So that was what was the Kickstarter for us to create this exhibit of gorgeous photographs, because we want to challenge perceptions of what mental illness looks like. You can't see mental illness.
How's that going? Are you sharing that with schools around the country?
Oh my gosh, yes, it is traveling. It's opening at a university in Worcester, Massachusetts. It's coming up to Boston University. We have different versions. People are using it, the digital version. Yeah, I want it to be seen everywhere, anyhow, anytime, because it should be bundled into any health class when we talk about mental health and stigma.
I hope we can all spread the word. Talk to us more about the Yellow Tulip Project.
Sure.
So the planting of the yellow tulips, which are beautiful. How else are people able to get involved?
Yep. Well, I think the reason we're only 5 years old. We turned 5 in April. I think the reason that it is spreading really all over, it's amazing. We started in Portland, Maine, a little bunch of pirates trying to do something. And then, whoa, we've got kids in California, Montana, Texas. I think the reason why it's spreading is that it's almost like you're following a very simple recipe book. There's immediate, hopeful things to do. And a lot of people know mental illness, mental health is a huge issue, but they don't know what to do about it. So we have a recipe book that during Mental Health Awareness Week, plant a hope garden, get your hands dirty, plant a garden, the physical act of coming together and planting a garden. Now, if you're in Arizona or Florida tulips might not grow. It doesn't matter. It's not about the tulip. It's about the community coming together. You can paint rocks, but we have people come together, and often there's a speech, a tune, somebody recites a poem. So simple, so easy, cost effective. Just come together, plant some stuff. And then they come up typically in May, which is Mental Health Awareness Month. So everything we do is anchored on 2 easy, hopeful, community-based things that bring people together. So tomorrow, for example, they're planting a Hope Garden in Boston, the Rose Kennedy, right downtown Boston, and kids up in northern Maine are planting. They're planting in South Carolina. So that's the energy of how we started, was just doing something. And then again, the stigma conversations, and then all the stuff that the leadership team is offering. A lot of it's on Instagram. They're doing stigma stories. They're doing enrichment. They're doing all different things. So it's pretty amazing for a young person, where our tagline also is "Our voices matter," that you want to get involved, you're excited, become an ambassador. If you want to get more involved, get on a team. And there's so many places that young people can grow as young leaders within what we're doing. So that's kind of the nutshell, what we do. It also, the little video captured a little bit about that. But I think our special sauce, why we're spreading, is that it's really simple. You can go to our website. Are you a student, an educator, community member? Click, click, click. I'm a community member. Great. Here's how to bring it to your community. I'm an educator. Great. Here's how to bring it to your school. I'm a student. Great. Become an ambassador. Go off and make change.
Perfect. Thank you for making it easy for all of us to get involved. And as you are aware, we have a lot of exchange participants here in the country and also in other countries around the world. But for sure, we will be sharing this with our participants who are high school students, college students, and professionals, teachers in the country, so that they can get involved, and hopefully people who are involved with Greenheart, our stakeholders, our hosts, our partners, they can also get involved, because you're right, this is not just a US issue, this is a global issue, and we really need to work together.
Exactly. I totally agree. I do know they planted a Hope Garden in London and in Poland this month, which is exciting. We have our first Hope Garden, our first international Hope Garden, so hopefully there'll be many more.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate everything that you have shared with us today, Suzanne. Many thanks for your time and for opening your heart in this experience. I can't, as you know, as a fellow parent, it's not easy to see your child or loved one go through that. But on the flip side, it's creating this beautiful space for all of us to connect and share and move forward on smashing the stigma, which is really, really needed. So thank you so much to you and Julia and the whole Yellow Tulip Project for working on this.
Thank you. What an honor to be here today. And thank you, Greenheart, and everybody here listening. It really does take a village to make change. So I really am honored to be here, and thank you so much.
Wonderful. And for everyone else, stay tuned for more from our global community. We have thousands of Greenheart friends and partners from around the world who share our commitment to connecting people and planet. Here is one such friend and partner, Katja Peterson, who sits on the board of Greenheart International and will share her inspiring work with us. Let's watch.
Worldview Explorations supports youth to shift their perspectives in the way they see and experience the world.
We did a lesson of how we react to things. I was angry and I told myself, stay calm.
There have been some very difficult neighborhoods that I've been teaching in. I was a little surprised to actually see that the gang influences are part of the neighborhood, and realizing that I was actually keeping some kids off the streets.
There are 3 key elements in the program: self-awareness, building healthy relationships, and being truly inspired to make a difference in the world.
The thing I want to change in this world is that no people stay on the streets, no people get treated badly.
I think I have changed the girl who was picking on me, Sabrina's life, because now she has been making more friends and being nice to me too.
It makes me feel really, really inspired.
Thank you. That was truly inspirational. Do you have an idea to share with us about personal development or taking care of the environment or taking care of each other? If you do, please email us at connects@greenheart.org. We would love to hear from you and potentially feature you on an upcoming Greenheart episode or highlight you on our social media channels. There's so much that I've learned today. Many thanks to the Yellow Tulip Project for joining us. And thank you also to Katya for sharing her work today. And thanks to all of you who participated and asked questions. Join us on November 18th at 11 a.m. Central Time when we speak with Jenny Leister from Greenheart Rugs. Greenheart Rugs sells hand-knotted heirloom quality rugs that are made by fairly paid adults. They believe in preserving the rich cultural heritage of traditional rug making, and they've been working with Greenheart artisans in Pakistan since 1982. Their staff is dedicated to educating customers about hand-knotted rugs and about the fair trade difference, both in the quality of life and the quality of the product. Part of their mission is to provide vital and fair income to Pakistani rug artisans who otherwise would have very few sustainable outlets for their craft and their artistry. We think you'll be inspired. You are here because you want to learn about ways to care for our planet and for each other. So thank you for taking the time to be with us. We hope that you will share greenheartconnects.org with your friends and families and colleagues from all around the world. Later today, this full episode will be available online. Don't forget, all past episodes are available to view on greenheartconnects.org. And you would want to do that because there are many speakers and engaging topics that you can choose from. Be sure to check out the resources page for more information that has been shared by our speakers. And finally, please join us on our social media channels so that we can continue the conversation and that we can continue to support one another. We want to hear what you are doing to make the world a better place. We hope to see you here again on November 18, 2021 for the next Greenheart Connects. Thank you.